Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As we mentioned in the beginning of this edition of Nile Cruise, we are celebrating Sinai Independence Day, which falls on the 25th of April every year. Egypt celebrates the return back of Sinai, which was back in, the last piece of Sinai was back in 1982, when Egypt recovered the land of Sinai and the withdrawal of the last Israeli soldier from the city of Taba in 1988. This came in accordance to the International Peace Treaty of 1979, settlement of the long diplomatic dispute. Now, on this day, Egyptians give tribute to the Egyptian armed forces and their sacrifices, which led to the recovery of Sinai from occupation. And this day is also dedicated for celebrating the beauty of Sinai, which hosts many touristic cities like Sharm el-Sheikh, Dahab, Nuweiba, and many other Egyptian beautiful cities along the Red Sea coast, being popular destinations for both Egyptians and foreign visitors. In order to talk more about Sinai Liberation Day and the importance of this very precious land for the Egyptians, we're very much delighted to have with us Mr. Sami Farahat. He is a Group 73 Historians member. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Well, good afternoon, and of course, Group 73 historian, you're always keen to, on your Facebook page, to raise the awareness about the history and the heroism and the heroic deeds of our armed forces. Definitely, you must have done special reports and documentaries in celebration of the Sinai Liberation Day. So would you tell us the latest news and how did you celebrate it?
That's right, ma'am. First of all, let me congratulate you and all the Egyptian nation with this feast, with the celebration of the precious land of Sinai, which meets the 25th of April every year. Let me just start by stating that all over history, Sinai was never historically separable from the Egyptian nation, despite all the attempts of the aspirers and the invaders and all the wars that went on this sacred land. But Sinai has never been separated from Egypt and will never be, inshallah. Back to your question, ma'am, regarding Group 73 historians. As you know, we are keen to raise the awareness of the Egyptian nation with their military history, which is a very important part of the Egyptian history in general. To do this, yes, we have produced a few documentaries to document all the recent historical, or small part of the recent historical military history. I can recall Wings of Fury Part 1 and Wings of Fury Part 2, Ababil and Battalion 418. We have a lot to document. We have a lot of work. Again, let me repeat that we cannot do this alone. This is a work that requires all the efforts of the Egyptian nation and all the, let me state, the education, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Media, everything. Every Egyptian citizen has to contribute. We have a great history, and we need to implant this awareness in the minds of our youth and our children. Okay. Because today they are young, but tomorrow they are the leaders of this country, and they will contribute in every part in this country. So,
sir, before I go to my next question, I'm just wondering about the secret behind the name. Why 73? Why Group of Historians 73?
Well, we took that from the War of 1973, October 1973. So we thought it would be a good idea. This was a great victory for the Egyptian nation, yes. And we thought of to keep it in mind.
It has a significance.
Yes.
Well, we always say that history is not about the past. It's actually about the present and the future.
Of course.
And if people read history carefully, they would be able to see through and relate to what's going on in the present time, and they could also foresee or tell what's going to happen in the future in relation to similar past events stated by history. So if we're talking about Sinai, Sinai has been always a land that has seen ferocious fights and wars due to its significance and importance. It has been throughout history. And until this very modern day, until today, this is still going on.
Yes.
Nowadays, our armed forces continue the Sinai Operation 2018, the comprehensive Sinai Operation 2018, in order to eliminate terrorists from Sinai. How can we relate what's going on in Sinai now to a historical point of view?
Well, it has all the significance. As you see, awareness is accumulation of knowledge. So history teaches us the experiences that we have went through all through the history. And in order to understand what happens today in Sinai and will happen tomorrow, we have to be aware of what is the importance of this peninsula, this stretch of land of Egypt. Sinai is a bridge between Asia and Africa. If we recall history, we will see that all the invasions of our vicious aspirers and enemies and those who have greeds in the wealths of Egypt came from the eastern gate. So Sinai is the eastern gate of Egypt. All the invaders from Asia, from Europe, came through Sinai. Most of them, most of the attacks came through Sinai. And from Egypt through Sinai to defend its borders. We remember the great battle of Qadesh. We remember so the Hyksos, the Hittites came from Sinai. The Crusaders, two of the or more of the Crusades came through Sinai in the year 577 and 1181. They came from Sinai. Even Napoleon, when he thought of invading Egypt, he came through Sinai. So in the recent, Sinai has many points of importance. It has a religious weight and importance. Sayyidina Ibrahim, the father of all prophets, he was the first to bless the land of Sinai. The voyage of the sacred family came through Sinai. Moses, Yusuf came through Sinai. So it has a religious importance, it has a geographical importance, it has Amr ibn al-As, when Islam came to Egypt, first came to Egypt, Amr ibn al-As came through Sinai. So it has a religious importance.
In addition, of course, to the mineral resources and its wealth in mineral resources.
Yes, I was coming to this. Religious, geographical, geopolitical, the location is very important. It's a source of minerals. Since the days of the pharaohs, of the Egyptian, of ancient Egyptians, they used Sinai to be a source for all the minerals and raw materials that were important to the rise of their civilization. So this is Sinai. If we recall history, there is, and it still is up till today, the military road of Horus, which started from Qantara, what we call today Qantara, and through the valley of the cave Wadi al-Maghara, and ending to El Arish. So this was and still is up to date a military road. All the invasions came through this, and the fight back came from Egypt to. Let me just remember a verse of the Holy Quran, the verse of Al-Tin, Surah Al-Tin. وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. So Tur Sinin is Mount Tur in Sinai. So this is a very important land.
It's mentioned in the
Yes, and we have to pay attention. If we don't implant this history in the minds of our youth, how would they pay attention to the importance? Now, today's youth look to Sinai as a wasteland. Why do we want this land? Even Israel, when we were fighting to take back our land, they told Sadat, why do you want this land? It's just a wasteland, a strip of wasteland. Why do you want it? It's deserted. We can make use of it. Why do you want it? Leave it to us. So this is a mixed up logic.
But now we're urbanizing it. We are having industrial zones in it. We're having resorts in it. We're building cities and moving communities into it, and that would lead us to the Sustainable Development 2030 and the development of the Sinai. How do you project that in your group, and how do you tackle it as a group of historians? How do you project it to the modern Egyptians and to the youth?
It's inseparable.
Yeah.
So again, yes, today we are going through a battle for existence. Egypt, whole Egypt. We need to rebuild the country and reestablish its status after many years of negligence. Sinai is very important from this perspective. How do we as Group 73?
I understand you do have symposiums and you go to schools, you do workshops. I understand that you do a lot of activities.
Yesterday we had a trip. We organized a trip to El Suez to our followers. They went to the third Field Army graveyards. They visited there. They have visited the museum of the 3rd Field Army, and it was good. It was nice. We introduced this to put it in their minds. This is where your fathers fought, and your grandfathers fought, and yourselves, maybe your brothers, your sons will fight in the future, because the aspirers will never put their eyes away from Sinai and from Egypt. And we have to pay attention to this.
Yes.
Symposiums, we had a seminar in the Great Library of Alexandria a few weeks ago, and it was great. It was honoring for some of the veterans, our great veterans. So we try also to introduce these great people to our children to know about.
Mr. Sami Farhad, Group 73 Historians, thank you very much for being with us in this edition of Nile Cruise.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And again,
and ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after a short break. Stay with us.
It's exactly 2 p.m. here in Cairo, time for the top stories. Egypt's Meteorological Authority said in a statement that unstable weather is expected to continue through Thursday. With rainfall predicted across several parts of the country, torrential rains are expected in Sinai and winds are to interrupt navigation in the Red Sea. Governorate unstable weather prevailed in the country after heavy rain and storms hit Cairo and other governorates in the past 2 days. Earlier, Prime Minister Sharif Ismail gave his directives to relevant officials to take the required measures to face consequences of unstable weather. Ismail gave his directives to raise readiness level in all governorates, especially the affected ones. Meanwhile, Minister of Housing Dr. Mustafa Madmouli and the head of the Administrative Control Authority, Mohammed Irfan, inspected the New Cairo area, which was badly affected by the bad weather. The first Al-Azhar Festival for Arts and Creativity was launched on Thursday in Al-Azhar Convention Center. The event, which lasts for 3 days, held under the auspices of Al-Azhar Grand Imam Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib. The festival comes within the framework of Al-Azhar's support for students who have talents in different fields. Syrian state media said government forces have pushed into a Damascus neighborhood held by the Daesh terrorist group from different directions and captured buildings on several street blocks and tunnels used by extremists, a state news agency said Thursday. That dozens of Daesh members were killed in battles in the southern Damascus neighborhood of Hajar al-Aswad, during which ground forces closely coordinated with the Air Force in bombarding the area. The opposition's Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said Syrian authorities ordered rebel groups in the southern Damascus suburbs of Babila, Beit Sahm and Yalda to hand over front lines with Daesh in the area or face government bombardment. The observatory said the government wants to open new fronts against terrorist group to expand pressure on extremists. France's President Emmanuel Macron urged the United States to embrace multilateralism and warned of the perils of trade war and extreme nationalism in an address to Congress, pushing back against Donald Trump's America First agenda. The French leader's speech to lawmakers was a dramatic twist near the end of a 3-day visit that had showcased his warm personal relationship with Trump despite the gulf between their visions of world affairs. In one of his final appearances of the trip, he expressed pessimism about the future of Iran nuclear deal, saying he believed Trump may end up pulling out of the agreement. In his speech to Congress, Macron pushed back against Trump's trade, climate and non-proliferation policies. The French President Emmanuel Macron vowed to U.S. lawmakers that everything would be done to stop Iran ever acquiring atomic weapons. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani rejected any hopes of rewriting a nuclear deal with world powers. In a fiery speech, Rouhani took a more aggressive track, reiterating his country would not accept any changes to the deal. Iran has warned it will ramp up enrichment if Trump scraps the accord, prompting a blunt warning from the U.S. leader. In their different ways, Europe, Iran and Russia are all seeking to convince U.S. President Donald Trump not to abandon the landmark 2015 deal that curbed Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. Trump has called the existing accord insane and ridiculous, in part because its restrictions start to expire in 2025. Well, dear viewers, that's all for the top stories. Stay tuned for more is coming up on Nile TV International.
And in this segment, we will be talking about part of the reform of the Egyptian educational system to meet Egypt's Sustainable Development Plan 2030, where the education is on top of the agenda. And we have a project of cooperation between Egypt and Japan, where more than 200 schools will be introduced, and governmental schools in more than 45 areas also will be adopting the Japanese educational system. We will be talking about means of cooperation between Egypt and Japan in the field of education, and I'm happy to have with me today Dr. Hussien Zanaty, and he's Executive Director of the Egyptian-Japanese Friendship Association. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me.
Good afternoon, Dr. Zanaty. Now, if we're talking about the Japanese experience in education in particular, Egypt has a lot to draw from such a unique experience in education, and there has been a lot of talk about Japanese-Egyptian cooperation in the field of education. Could you tell us more about that?
First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful invitation to be with you in the program, and I'm so happy to talk about this experience. First of all, I think the education agreement between Egypt and Japan, which started by the call from our President Sisi with Prime Minister Abe in 2016, and then after that related, it was another connection when the Prime Minister Dr. Tara visited Japan last 2 months to see the practical Japanese system at schools. So I think there's a long way to do with this experience in Egypt. We need to cooperate very well with the Japanese side to make it success.
Doctor, would you tell us more about your association, the Egyptian-Japanese Friendship Association? When was it established and the aims of it?
All right. Egypt-Japan Friendship Association was EJIFA, was established in 1970, and the founder was the former Prime Minister, Dr. Muhammad Abdul Qadir Hatim, and he passed away last year. And now his son, Dr. Tariq Hatim, he's the chairman of our association. Mm-hmm. We have more than 300 participants or members in our association, and we have a lot of activities between the Japanese culture and Egyptian culture. We are trying to support both government, so both countries, to promote a lot of activities such as educational activity or cross-cultural activity, tourist fields, and also for the social activity.
Mm-hmm. Sir, in what way is EJFA trying to help students in Minya Governorate in particular?
Well, at Minya, we had an experience 2 years ago called the ASHAB, which is all share humanity and peace. It makes one word, ASHAB. And within this ASHAB method, we try to adapt the Japanese methods at the Egyptian school in Minya. We had 20 kids aged between 6 years old to 14 years old. And we made a group of these people, of these kids, to try to adopt the Japanese traditional way of thinking. So we help them.
Which is what?
Yeah, which is what? First of all, we made groups, and each group has to come up with one topic, and they work for this topic by themselves. They have to make the plan, the start plan, and they give the timing, to be accurate timing to achieve this plan. And then what's after, after this plan? I mean, the feedback. It's very important to give them the chance to be motivated and also to be creative through self-engagement, through self-reflection.
How can we benefit from the Japanese culture and educational system for the development of Egypt?
Well, if you look deeply at the Japanese culture, we can see some, there are similar parts between both cultures, especially in the countrysides. Mm-hmm. I live in Japan now for more than 20 years, mm-hmm. and I moved to different parts in Japan, but I really realized that there are very similar atmosphere. They're respectable people, very kind people, like Egyptian. They have morals, we have also moral. So just the difference, slight difference, that the Japanese people, when they decide something, they do it, not just say it. So this is the most important thing, is that we needed to move it to Egyptian society.
Yes. Sir, there has been a lot of talk about Japanese schools in Egypt. This is simply because parents were wondering in what way how would the Japanese educational system be applied in Egypt, since we have two different systems. We have international systems here in Egypt. We have the French baccalaureate, the British IG, or the American diploma, but the Japanese system is somehow new.
Yeah.
How can we Egyptians adapt to the Japanese education
Okay,
system?
let me say something there. We are going to, for this, the program between Egypt and Japan now, it's not 100% the whole system of the Japanese school. They're going to use only a part of it, which is Kotatsu, the program called Kotatsu. And this Kotatsu has three pillars. One of them is the developing the academical skills, and
Yes.
second one is to develop the physical skills, and the third one about the common behavior skills. So mainly about moral. We're going to take only the first part of the system is about moral. Like, for example, if I'm talking about the academical part, it's how to or like self-thinking, how to self-management, how to do the self-achievement. This is for the academical part. And then for the physical part, how to build healthy mentality for the kids to be active. You need, if you want to move the kids from being normal kids to be active learner, then you need to care about his mentality, his background, his culture, and also the relationship between the teacher and the students.
Yes.
Now I'm curious about the language itself of education. Would it be in Arabic, in English? Would the children need to learn Japanese? How would it work?
I'm not involved in this project, but I can tell you from my point of
From
view.
your
I think
experience,
they are
I think
going to
you're a
do it in
teacher.
Arabic language.
In Arabic?
Yeah, in Arabic. And then some parts, they will be like giving the activity and the culture, maybe language in the future. I think in the future it could be like one of the, like the
Second
goal.
language
Yeah,
in
second
school.
language at school would be nice. Because if you look at all the good relationship between Egypt and Japan, Japan is supporting Egypt a lot for many projects, huge projects like the museum, like schools. So now, why I'm just wondering why the Egyptian government cannot think about, starting the second language, Japanese, because we have a good relationship with the Japanese people.
Japanese people are interested in learning the Arabic language?
Yes, they love Egypt. I mean, if you ask any Japanese person, they say that before I die, I'd love to go to see the pyramids. So they love Egyptian people. They love the hospitality of the Egyptian people. And when they come to visit Egypt, they try to learn Arabic. Because,
Okay, so they learn Arabic here in Egypt. But
no,
why don't
they learn before they come.
there in Japan?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there are certain facilities that provide.
Yeah, of course. There are
Arabic
some
language.
centers teaching Arabic too, yeah.
Now I'm
For my
curious,
work,
yeah.
for my work, beside the university work, I also work at one of the Board of Education. I'm based at 12 schools, teach them English and also helping the teachers to giving the training.
Interesting.
And I use Arabic language only for the occasion. For example, in Ramadan, I want to show them Ramadan. So I fast in front of them, I pray in front of them, I give them all things about Ramadan, Ramadan song, Ramadan festival, Ramadan lamp. So I'm using Arabic only for the timing, because the Japanese people, they really like the timing, especially the timing for the occasion. Well, not any time, just. And for example, when the kids, they have their own birthday, I sing them happy birthday in Arabic. I write their name as a present on the board in Arabic. So this way.
Well, Doctor, I'm curious about the tool we have in front of you. What is this?
Okay, this is one of the Japanese traditional game called the kendama. I mean, if you look at this style, and it's very close to the key of life of Egypt. Is that right? So, I mean, very close. But this is very traditional game. And by the way, the Japanese Japanese schools, they usually care a lot about all the traditional games and habits. So all kids, they play this from the longer time. The function is just we have 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and you should think how to put this one here or here or here or here. So can I show?
Yes,
Very
please.
good.
No, it's like. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. It requires
Yeah,
concentration.
sorry. Yeah, anytime if you have it, I
but
can do
we're
it.
supposed to. It's supposed to rest on
There
one
we
of the.
go.
Wow, that's cool.
There we go.
All right. So this one gives you the kids learn to have to be patient, how to concentrate, how to have
Keep trying until
keep
you
trying.
do it.
And once you move from this step, you challenge for the next step. This is very important. Egyptian kids, because they get used for the electronic things, they don't have patience. They want to finish as soon as possible.
Yes.
This movement, it hurts the brain.
Yes.
a lot. So it's very important to provide the things which give you the patience and be quiet and polite.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, that's very interesting, sir. But also, I want to know, if we're talking about the Japanese culture, you just mentioned something. There are certain aspects of the Japanese
Yeah.
culture that needs to be conveyed
Yes.
to the Egyptians, such as patience.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that. How can we do that? How can we exchange cultures within the educational system?
Well, we had a very successful experiment in Minya with a SHAB group, with the supervisor of Dr. Masayuki Akutsu. He's very expert in the Middle East fields, and he can speak Arabic very well. We had an experience in Minya, and I can show you some pictures I have here. This is Ashab, which is all share humanity and peace, make the world Ashab. First of all, we had a connection between kids in Minya and the kids in Japan. We had the huge earthquake
In Japan,
in Japan.
yes.
So I composed the Japanese song, and then the Minya kids, they learned it through the Skype. They learned it in Japanese, and they sang it to the kids in
Yes.
Japan. So
Wow.
we started this kind of culture through the songs,
Okay.
cross-culture songs. And after that, we tried to
Would
build...
you show us the pictures to the camera, please, so that we can, yeah, and then flip it one by one,
Okay.
please, Doctor.
And then after that, we tried to involve another students from different school in Minya, local school. We made a triangle that,
next one,
which is,
Doctor.
yeah, the triangle is the Japanese kids and the Egyptian kids in the big town, and another triangle is the countryside who has no schools, has no chance to learn. So we, through this triangle, these kids can learn something. They can cooperate with the Japanese kids. So the Japanese kids teaching them how to make games, like
Yeah.
this one, they can make
Yeah.
it by the cup and paper.
Okay.
It's very
Yes,
easy.
they are using
There's
this
no,
one too.
Yeah, very easy one and very useful. And then we exchanged or extended the program that why not the Japanese kids can teach Egyptian kids this traditional game, hand game. There's a hand game all over the world. And we discovered that there are some similar games used to play in both countries. So now we are connecting both culture through the tradition. Okay.
Yes.
And here, and we start from another option that kids, Japanese kids, they are very unique and very good at
Hand skills.
So they are now teaching the kids in the countryside how to make your own stuff by hand, no machine. It's very easy, very activity. And we can go further to do like any activity like this.
Okay.
This is beautiful. Now, for the intercultural relations and the various workshops you're holding, you've been to Minya.
Yeah, yes.
What was the feedback of the children and the parents, and how were they received there?
First of all, it was very hard to convince teachers and parents. But once we start, before we start, we made a survey for parents and students and teachers, and we picked up the weak points, the things they need to fix. And one of the most important points for us was to improve the classical Arabic. We need to improve the classical mother language in our school. Because if I ask one of the students to write their like ethics or article or any paragraph, they write the mix with Franco-Arab. Franco-Arab.
Yeah.
So we want them to write classical Arabic. So we
Okay.
put them in a project to deal with Japanese students, and you will be the ambassador of Egypt. So to be the ambassador of Egypt, then you have to be neat, you have to be respectable, you have to think about how to convince the Japanese side through the Arabic language. So we started by this way. After we finished the experiments, then the parents came to us and say that my daughter used to stay in her room and playing game with a Ketai, with the iPhone. And now she's using her iPhone to take the Nile movie and send it to the Japanese side.
Oh,
So now
that's
we shift.
interesting.
There's a big shift now in their life.
Yes,
they
of
can use
course.
the device for something learning.
Useful.
Yes, this is the.
Sarah,
feedback.
I've noticed something while you were showing us the pictures. I have noticed that there are so many girls. I could see the look in their eyes. They were so interested
Yeah.
and passionate about the process
The
going
process,
on.
yeah.
Upper Egypt is the part of Egypt where poorer families give the priority to the boys
Yeah.
when it comes to education.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many girls in the picture, and I've seen them more enthusiastic about
Yeah.
the whole process?
I am so happy to
What's
have,
your
I was so happy to have, it wasn't limited, I mean, for girls. It was open, but the
Yes.
school provided the group. But I was so
Were
happy.
girls smarter than boys in that?
Yes. One more thing that I was so happy to have girls because they are the future mother.
Yes.
Okay, they will be having family, and then they will care about their kids. So it's really good to teach them more and give them more, and
Skills.
also skills. And they are very neat, more than boys. Boys want to play soccer, they want to play game outside, but the girls want to stay home, and so we can use them and then teach
To
them
develop their
something good.
skills.
Yes.
Doctor, you've mentioned that you're living in Japan and that you're teaching there. So would you tell us more about your experience in Japan?
All right. When I started teaching in Japan, I had my own school. I opened my Zanaty school for 12 years. And after that, I moved to the Board of Education. The reason that I wanted to share many students about my culture. So when I started working with Japanese teachers, I started discover many things. What's the difference, first of all, what's the difference between the Japanese teacher and the Egyptian teacher? And what's the difference between the Japanese students and the Egyptian students? What the curriculum and the curriculum,
So how did you find tell us a bit about the differences.
Well, at school, they are family. The whole family. From the principal to the kindergarten kids. They are all family working together. All the programs planned and activity planned to be a part of the school, which is a part of the society, which is a part of all Japan. And so I realized they say "Tahya al-Yaban" practically,
Long
not
live
just
Japan, yeah.
words. So they work hard. The teachers work from 8 o'clock until 2:30 as a teacher, and from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock he is the coach, sports coach at school. So he's doing all this. Of course, he takes a big salary, but he's doing this for the sake of the country. So everyone knows his responsibility, from students, teachers, parents, and everyone working together.
Yes. Could you tell us, sir, about scholarships? Are there any scholarships provided by Japan to Egypt or vice versa?
Yeah, there are a lot of projects. I think it's through the embassy, Japanese embassy, or JICA. There is one program called the Mumbosho, which is the Japanese Minister of Education and Technology, connected together with the embassy. I think this year they increased more than before. There used to be 50 and now became more than 80. It's open for all the fields.
Now, for your association, are you cooperating with the embassy or with the Japanese Cultural Center here in Cairo for your activities in the country?
Yes, of course. EJIFA, or Japan-Egypt Friendship Association, is the bridge between all the Japanese society in Egypt and Japanese people. So we cooperate with the Japanese embassy. We cooperate with Japan Foundation. Sometimes we cooperate with JICA. And for example, last August we created a new project to promote the Egyptian tourism and also the education system. We made the study tour project, which is a special trip for the Japanese teachers to come to Egypt here. And they have 6 days. They visit pyramids and sightseeing for 4 days. And another days, they give lectures for free for teachers to teach them teaching methods. So this is the first project like between Egypt and Japan for this one, study tour project.
Okay. Sir, what about the fields of study for Egyptian students in Japan? I know that Japan is excelled in certain fields such as technology, business and marketing, information technology, business technology as well. What other fields are covered for or available for Egyptian students to study in Japan?
Yeah, as you mentioned now, the technology is the priority. I think after that, the engineering system, or anything to do with the development of the education, also the medicine or the medical stuff. And another field, I think, is something to do with the arts and the music, especially for the program between Egypt and Japan for the school, Japanese school. They're now giving chance for the music teacher, art teacher, to visit Japan, and then they visit schools. They have a practical visit, and they see by how the activity goes.
Now, I'd like to return back to the activity you were talking about,
Yep.
because in the brochure I saw several photos. You talked about symposium, but I also, and touristic sites, but also I saw the images of the spice market and folkloric dancing. So would you tell us more about these activities?
About dancing?
Yeah, I saw some dance.
With
Are these
my
dancing?
pictures here?
There was this one. Yeah.
This one?
No, the other brochure.
Yeah. Okay.
There's the image of the spice market and dancing
this
as well.
This is the brochure which I give it. I spread it at school, Japanese schools.
Yes.
So I'm giving them
Would you show us the photograph,
yes.
please? Yes. And you were talking about the dancing part.
Yeah. When the people who come with me to this trip, they want to stay one night at the Egyptian house. They want to see the Egyptian family. They want to eat the mother food. So it's something new for them, because when they come with the other tourist trip, they just stay in the hotel and they eat 5 stars food, but they never tried the pure Egyptian mother handmade food. So this trip is for them, that they can stay with Egyptian mother and they can hear the other sides. They can see mahshi and the koshari.
Nice.
So it was a pure Egyptian experience.
I do cooking classes.
Dr. Hussien is the Executive Director of the Egyptian-Japanese Friendship Association, IJFA. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for this.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And now we will be going to a quick break, but we'll be back for more Nile Cruise, so stay with us.